Chapter 9. Discovering your primary love language. Discovering the primary love language of your spouse is essential if you are to keep their emotional love tank full. But first, let's make sure that you know your own love language. Having heard the 5 emotional love languages, words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, and physical touch, some individuals will know instantaneously their own primary love language and that of their spouse. For others, it will not be that easy. Some are like Marcus, who said to me, "I don't know, it seems that 2 of those are just about equal for me." "Which 2?" I inquired. "Physical touch and words of affirmation," he responded. "By physical touch, what do you mean?" "Well, mainly sex," Marcus replied. I probed a little further, asking, "Do you enjoy your wife running her hands through your hair, or giving you a back rub, or holding hands, or kissing and hugging you at times when you are not having sexual intercourse?" "Sure," said Marcus. "I'm not going to turn them down, but the main thing is sex. That's when I know she really loves me." Leaving the subject of physical touch for a moment, I turned to affirming words and asked, "When you say that words of affirmation are also important, what kind of statements do you find most helpful?" "I like it when she tells me I look good, that I'm smart, almost anything if it's positive. When she tells me she loves me." "Did you receive those kinds of comments from your parents when you were growing up?" "Not very often," he said. "They yelled at me and told me what to do. But Alicia was different." I asked Marcus to think about something. "Let me ask you this. If Alicia were meeting your sexual needs, that is, if you were having quality sexual intercourse as often as you desire, but she was giving you negative words, making critical remarks, sometimes putting you down in front of others, do you think you would feel loved by her?" "No, not at all," he said. "I'd feel terrible." "Marcus," I said, "I think we have just discovered that your primary love language is words of affirmation. Sexual intercourse is extremely important to you and your sense of intimacy with Alicia, but her words of affirmation are more important to you emotionally. If she were in fact verbally critical of you all the time and put you down in front of other people, the time may come when you would no longer desire to have sexual intercourse with her because she would be a source of deep pain to you." Marcus had made the mistake common to many men, assuming that physical touch is their primary love language because they desire sexual intercourse so intensely. For the male, sexual desire is physically based. That is, the desire for sexual intercourse is stimulated by the buildup of sperm cells and seminal fluid in the seminal vesicles. When seminal vesicles are full, there is a physical push for release. Thus, a male's desire for sexual intercourse has a physical root. For the female, sexual desire is far more influenced by her emotions. If she feels loved and admired and appreciated by her husband, then she has a desire to be physically intimate with him. But without the emotional closeness, she may have little physical desire. Her biological sex drive is closely tied to her emotional need for love. Because the male is physically pushed to have sexual release on a somewhat regular basis, he may automatically assume that that is his primary love language. But if he does not enjoy physical touch at other times and in non-sexual ways, it may not be his love language at all. Sexual desire is quite different from his emotional need to feel loved. That doesn't mean that sexual intercourse is unimportant to him. It is extremely important, but sexual intercourse alone will not meet the need to feel love. His wife must speak his primary emotional love language as well. When, in fact, his wife speaks his primary love language and his emotional tank is full, and he speaks her primary love language and her emotional tank is full, the sexual aspect of their relationship will take care of itself. Most sexual problems in marriage have little to do with physical technique, but everything to do with meeting emotional needs. After further conversation and reflection, Marcus said, "You know, I think you're right. Words of affirmation is definitely my primary love language. If she's critical and puts me down, I don't want to have sex with her, and I even think about other women. But when she tells me how much she appreciates me and admires me, then it's a different story with us." Brittany has wondered for years whether she really has only one primary love language. "I know I most value quality time and acts of service," she said, "but it's hard to know which is primary with me. It used to be acts of service, but it seems that as I've gotten older, I'm more concerned with sharing good times with friends and family and less worried about how stuff gets done." How do you know? How the love languages can hurt us. What is your primary love language? What makes you feel most loved by your spouse? What do you desire above all else? If the answer to those questions does not leap to your mind immediately, perhaps it will help to look at the negative uses of love languages. What does your spouse say or do, or fail to say or do, that hurts you deeply? Ignoring our partner's love language is like ignoring the needs of a garden. If we don't weed, water, or fertilize, it will die a slow death. But if we actually abuse our partner's love language, that is, use them for harmful purposes, it's like taking a machete to that same garden and chopping everything up. Each of the love languages is vulnerable to insincere manipulation. The use of words your spouse the use of words your spouse loves to hear just so they will engage sexually with you is wrong. So is attempting to do a lot of chores for someone just so they will praise you. If your deepest pain is the critical, judgmental words of your spouse, then perhaps your love language is words of affirmation. Sarcastic, hateful, and dismissive words are wounding to anyone, but especially so to the person for whom affirming words is their love language. Similarly, the lack of words, giving someone the silent treatment, can be devastating. We have already discussed the hurt and anger felt by spouses who resent their mates for not helping enough around the house. Clearly, these spouses' love language is acts of service. But recently, I heard about a wife who took this a step further. She and her husband had been arguing all weekend. On Sunday, rather than make lunch for the two of them as usual, she fixed something for herself and told him, "Make your own lunch." She withdrew a service she had always performed for him, knowing his love language was acts of service. If your primary love language is gifts, you may relate to the story of the young girl who had a very hard Christmas one year. Her older brother had not spent much time or effort in gift giving. He gave her something he had found lying around the house. Nothing she needed, nothing special or thoughtful. She, of course, was deeply wounded. Similarly, the spouse whose love language is quality time might find herself more bored by her and her husband's evening routine of dinner, TV, and bed, or struggle when her spouse travels on business. She might even long for more meaningful emails than "Good meeting today, see you tomorrow." What of physical touch? Touch, of course, has immense potential for abuse, as we've already discussed. Touch can comfort, reassure, encourage, invite. It can also scar physically and emotionally. Touch withheld can also bring pain. What are you asking? When you're trying to figure out your primary love language, it helps to look back over your marriage and ask, what have I most often requested of my spouse? Whatever you have most requested is probably in keeping with your primary love language. Those requests have probably been interpreted by your spouse as nagging, but in fact, they have been your efforts to secure emotional love from your spouse. Brittany, the woman who was wondering if she was more quality time or acts of service, has thought about this. I guess by this measure, I do lean more towards service, if only because I feel like I'm always asking my husband to do stuff. Another way to discover your primary love language is to examine what you do or say to express your love to your spouse. Chances are what you are doing for her is what you wish she would do for you. If you are constantly doing acts of service for your spouse, perhaps, although not always, that is your love language. If words of affirmation speak loud to you, chances are you will use them in speaking love to your spouse. Thus, you may discover your own language by asking, how do I consciously express my love to my spouse? But remember, that approach is only a possible clue to your love language. It is not an absolute indicator. For example, a husband who learned from his father to express love to his wife by giving her nice gifts expresses his love to his wife by doing what his father did. Yet receiving gifts is not his primary love language. He is simply doing what he was trained to do by his father. I have suggested 3 ways to discover your own primary love language. Number 1, what does your spouse do or fail to do that hurts you most deeply? The opposite of what hurts you the most is probably your love language. Number 2, what have you most often requested of your spouse? The thing you have most often requested is likely the thing that would make you feel most loved. And number 3, in what ways do you regularly express love to your spouse? Your method of expressing love may be an indication that would also make you feel loved. Using those 3 approaches will probably enable you to determine your primary love language. If 2 languages seem to be equal for you, that is, both speak loudly to you, then perhaps you are bilingual. If so, you make it easier on your spouse. Now he or she has 2 choices, either of which will strongly communicate love to you. You may also wish to take the 5 love languages profile found in the back of this book. Discuss the results with your spouse. 2 kinds of people may have difficulty discovering their primary love language. The first is the individual whose emotional love tank has been full for a long time. Her spouse has expressed love in many ways, and she is not certain of which those ways makes her feel the most loved. She simply knows that she is loved. The second is the individual whose love tank has been empty for so long that he doesn't remember what makes him feel loved. In either case, go back to the experiences of falling in love and ask yourself, what did I like about my spouse in those days? What did he do or say that made me desire to be with him? If you can conjure up those memories, it will give you some idea of your primary love language. You could also ask yourself, what would be an ideal spouse to me? If I could have the perfect mate, what would she be like? Your picture of a perfect mate should give you some idea of your primary love language. Having said all of that, let me suggest that you spend some time writing down what you think your primary love language is. Then list the other four in order of importance. Also, write down what you think is the primary love language of your spouse. You may also list the other four in order of importance if you wish. Sit down with your spouse and discuss what you've guessed to be his or her primary love language. Then, tell each other what you consider to be your own primary love language. Once you have shared this information, I suggest that you play the following game 3 times a week for 3 weeks. The game is called Tank Check, and it is played like this. When you come home, one of you says to the other, "On a scale of 0 to 10, how full is your love tank tonight?" 0 means empty, and 10 means I am full of love and can't handle any more. You give a reading on your emotional love tank. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, or 0, indicating how full it is. Your spouse says, "What could I do to help fill it?" Then you make a suggestion, something you would like your spouse to do or say that evening. To the best of his ability, he will respond to your request. Then you repeat the process in reverse order so that both of you have the opportunity to do a reading on your love tank and make a suggestion toward filling it. If you play the game for 3 weeks, you will be hooked on it, and it can be a playful way of stimulating love expressions in your marriage. One husband said to me, "I don't like that love tank game. I played it with my wife. I came home and said to her, 'On a scale of 0 to 10, how's your love tank tonight?' She said, 'About 7. I asked, 'What could I do to help fill it?' She said, 'The greatest thing you could do for me tonight is to do the laundry.' I said, 'Love and laundry? I don't get it.' I said, 'That's the problem. Perhaps you don't understand your wife's love language. What's your primary love language?' Without hesitation, he said, 'Physical touch, and especially the sexual part of the marriage.' 'Listen to me carefully,' I said. 'The love you feel when your wife expresses love by physical touch is the same love your wife feels when you do the laundry.' 'Bring on the laundry,' he shouted. 'I'll wash the clothes every night if it makes her feel that good.' Incidentally, if you have still not discovered your primary love language, keep records on the tank check game. When your spouse says, 'What could I do to help fill your tank?' your suggestions will likely cluster around your primary love language. You may request things from all 5 love languages, but you will have more requests centering on your primary love language. Perhaps some of you are saying in your mind what one couple said to me in Zion, Illinois. "Dr. Chapman, all this sounds fine and wonderful, but what if the love language of your spouse is something that just doesn't come naturally for you?" I'll discuss my answer in Chapter 10. Your turn. Do you think by now that you have a good sense of what your spouse's love language is? How about them for you? What more could you do to explore this? If your love tank is completely empty or very full, whether you know your love language or not, play the tank check game over the next month. Ask for a reading from 0 to 10, 3 evenings a week, and then take suggestions of your spouse to raise that number for him or her. If your spouse is at a 10 consistently, you can pat yourself on the back, but don't stop loving.